now
on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:06 now, and we're continuing our Monday morning extravaganza here, known as O'Connor and Company. 7:35, Nick Minock of Channel 7, talk about Loudoun County school systems. 8:05, Adam Gillette, president of Accuracy in Media. And now 8:15, Trevor Maddich will join us about the Commanders game. I'm Larry O'Connor. Hey, Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Joining us now, as he often does at this time every week, it's Joe diGenova. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning.
As usual, we have a ton to get to. I'll begin with the subpoenas. James Comer issued subpoenas to the House Oversight Committee for Hunter Biden's business associates, for the New York City and China art dealer. He has an art dealer in China. That's weird, isn't it? Hunter's art patron and major Democrat donor. Also, I believe that there were subpoenas issued for Hunter Biden himself. So, are you seeing this as the case continuing to be to build for the eventual impeachment?
No, I don't think there's any doubt about it. I mean, James Comer has done a very thorough job. He's been very, very good about it. Been methodical, which is important to build the legal case, because most of the people are going to fight these subpoenas. They'll have to go to court to enforce them. I don't think any of the Biden family are going to willingly give up the information that's been subpoenaed. So this is a natural investigative step. There's nothing unusual about it. What's unusual is that it's taken so long to get here.
Yeah. Joe, and we'll continue to watch that. There's so much more I want to get to about it. And mostly, one of the conversations we've had all morning has to do with the rising tide of anti-Semitism that we're seeing on college campuses. Even a middle school had a swastika painted on the desk of a Jewish student. College students are allowed to openly harass, bully, and intimidate Jewish students on campus. I don't know. Maybe I'm old-fashioned. I got to think that that's against the law.
Well, it is. It's hate speech. The swastika is an internationally recognized symbol of anti-Semitism and hate. The situation with the school in Virginia is another example of a corrupt bureaucracy in the educational system in these schools in Virginia. They have abdicated all legal responsibility, that's for sure, but also all moral responsibility. For people who go out of their way to tell people which bathroom they can use and whether or not tampons are necessary in the boys' bathroom, it's stunning to me that they cannot say anything publicly about the swastika on a child's desk. I don't think there's any doubt that the parent involved in that has a legal action for inaction by the school itself, the administrator, the superintendent, and anybody involved in not doing anything about that. Because what comes next is violence against these children. These Jewish children, once this is encouraged, this type of outrageous anti-Semitic behavior, hate speech, there will be violence against these children, because these bigots will be encouraged to take action because nothing's happening no matter what they do.
Yeah. Joe, in Alexandria, Virginia, we had a similar rally, of course, where these students chanted "From the river to the sea" and other despicable things. This rally was on school grounds, and according to one person, actual school equipment was used as part of the organization of this rally, like the megaphones that were used. I have been told that they were school property. How is this not a violation of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act? Is there a lawsuit here? Could parents get together of these Jewish, and it doesn't only have to be Jewish parents, but could they sue the school district for failing to protect these Jewish students?
Well, there's no doubt they should do so. I don't think what's happening in these schools is an abomination. It is a complete abdication, as I said, of legal and moral responsibility by the school leaders, legally authorized principals, superintendents, teachers' unions who are allowing this to go on. Now, can you imagine if something like that was happening to an LGBTQ kid? There would be riots. The superintendent and all the people would be going crazy. But all of a sudden, it's okay to be an anti-Semite in Loudoun and Fairfax and Arlington County, and you're allowed to get away with it. I want to know where the think tanks are. There are legal think tanks that do nothing but litigate this stuff. They should be all over this, and they should be suing these people, not only to get an injunction to stop it, but for damages, for pain and suffering and all sorts of stuff. People should pay, including the superintendents involved in these things who are not superintending.
Right.
By the way, if there was any hunch amongst these school officials that the swastika had been painted by some, skinhead right-wing extremist MAGA fascists, we would all be, we'd have special school holidays for lectures about tolerance and everything. But they know who did this, and they know that it's Palestinian supporters, it's supporters of the Hamas terrorists and their October 7th massacre, and so they're keeping their mouths shut because they think that there's some kind of multicultural intersectionality that needs to be protected. Hate is hate.
This is discrimination based on the content of speech. That is a violation of the First Amendment. These school districts are public schools. They are state actors.
Yep.
They have the authority to stop this. By refusing to stop it, they are engaging in the suppression of free speech of the Jewish students. And they, without saying it, are encouraging the bigoted speech of the other students. So this is a no-brainer. And so litigation is in order.
Joe, I'd like to turn to we haven't spent a whole lot of time with this civil trial, or it's not a civil trial, excuse me, the trial against the fraud case against Donald Trump up in New York.
Yeah, that's a civil trial.
It is a civil trial. Thank you. I'm sorry. It's hard to keep them straight. All of the charges that they've thrown against Donald Trump out of political motivation. We know that New York Attorney General Letitia James is an outright partisan hack who literally ran her entire campaign on elect me and I'll get Donald Trump. It doesn't matter. You show me the man, I'll find you the crime, right? But the judge here, the judge's behavior was really starting to get some focus. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik has actually put forth an ethics complaint against the judge. What do you know about this, man? And also, why is this trial a judge ruling instead of a jury ruling?
Because they have used a very rare statute that exists on the books. It's in New York. Very few states have a statute like this that allow this type of consumer protection. Now, this is a consumer protection, consumer fraud piece of litigation. And yet, no consumer filed a complaint against the Trump organization for any of the alleged violations. The banks didn't sue Trump. They didn't file a complaint. The insurance companies, any of the realtors, any of the people who are buying and selling buildings. This is an insult to use this statute. In fact, I believe ultimately, if the Court of Appeals in New York does its job correctly, they will throw out this entire case because it is ill-founded. It's ridiculous. For example, the finding that the Trump organization committed fraud, which was a summary finding based on pleadings that were filed by both sides. The Attorney General made a motion for summary judgment based on all the documents that were filed in the case. The judge in the case granted summary judgment on the fraud issue. I believe that was absolutely a complete error and should be reversed by the Court of Appeals on a full record. There's no way you can have a fraud case like this tried without having full exposition of experts from the other side, full testimony, and none of that occurred. So I think this judge decided to keep this case, It should have been in another section of the court where they conduct complex civil matters, but instead he kept it in his courtroom. And, he's announced that he's retiring after this case. Yeah. Well, my goodness, that certainly warms my heart. I guess what he's going to do while he's going out the door, we all really don't want to be a witness to.
Joe, believe it or not, we have more. Do you mind sticking with us just for a few more minutes?
Sure, great.
I just worry about your voice. You sound like, are you getting the same crud so many other people have right now?
No, I've got a little bit of allergies.
Oh, I hear you. All right. We'll get more Joe diGenova in a minute. Even a Joe diGenova diminished by allergies is better than pretty much anybody else we could have at this time.
The Vince Colonnais Show.
Weekday afternoons, 3 to 6.
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
We continue this Monday morning with Joe diGenova, former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. And sure, you saw the Virginia elections last week where the Democrats retained their one-seat lead in the in the Virginia Senate. Or did they? Luke Rosiak over at Daily Wire has a story out right now about Ghazala Hashmi, the Democrat, who was declared the winner in the 15th Senate District. However, there's now paperwork being filed that claims that she doesn't actually live in that district. She lives in an apartment outside the district. That would be in violation of Virginia law. But, Joe, how do these things usually play out? Because it seems like there's always violations. It always seems to be on the Democrat side, vast majority of the time. And they always find a judge to say, well, we are loath to overturn an election, and it may be a technicality, but the will of the voter, and blah, 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 blah.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that because she was, assuming all these facts are true, her name on the ballot was illegal, and therefore any votes cast in her favor should not be counted. Now, courts are loath to intervene in elections after they are over. We saw that in 2020. However, when something like this occurs, where it appears, we shall see if it's true, that a candidate has falsely claimed to be a resident, which is a requirement to run for the office, falsely claimed to be, if that's true, then she is disqualified. She cannot serve. She cannot be sworn in by the legislature, and a court has a right to do that, to enforce the law and say you are ineligible. And even if you move in now, it's too late, because when you ran for the office, you were not, people voted for you, you were not resident in this county. So, I don't know what the courts in Virginia are going to do. The truth is, I have been so disappointed by the performance of state and federal courts since 2020.
Yeah.
I have no confidence whatsoever that what you and I would consider to be the right thing to do will eventually get done.
Yeah, I am with you because I think the key word there is the courts can say that, but there's not a lot of confidence that they will. Finally, we want to just kind of get your thoughts on some of the stuff that's happened in D.C. Crime, of course, is going up, and now there's a local CVS that has actually replaced the shelves that housed toilet paper with now framed photos of the product. I guess you're supposed to get a salesperson to bring you whatever. I think it's kind of nice that they're at least framing them and making it look classy on the shelves there. The other thing I'd love your thoughts on is DC is now going to do away with a qualifying test that social workers have to take, sort of the dumbing down. So, just what are your thoughts on DC's continued decline?
All you have to do is drive downtown during the day and see it's a ghost town.
Yeah.
And it's a ghost town for a reason. It's a ghost town because the incompetent people who run the city, Mayor Bowser, and the loony people on the DC Council have driven the city into the ground. And by the way, it's fascinating that you hear nothing from the White House. This is their city. This is the city that the President of the United States lives in. You would think he would want to help out. He would want to bring them in and say, hey, guys, can you get your act together? You're making us all look like fools. But he can't do it because he needs them. He needs every one of those votes. He needs all the fools who run the city. There's nothing that can be done about this. If Congress were controlled by the Republicans and had the White House, there's tons of things you can do, as I did when I was U.S. Attorney, when I would see something that was amiss and I couldn't get the city council to deal with it, which was occasional. Back in those days, at least the city council had some reasonable people on it. But you have to go to the White House, and the White House has to dig in and deal with the House and the Senate and do resolutions and legislation to deal with it. The crime problem in the district is a direct function of a lazy United States attorney named Matthew Graves, who is just so consumed by January 6th that he doesn't have time for the crimes against the little people who go to work every day in D.C. Actually, they're not going to work in D.C. They're staying home and telecommuting because it's unsafe to go to work in D.C. Julie, D.C. is a mess. It's like every major democratically controlled city in the country. And all this BS about, oh, you can't say that about Democrats. It's not Democrats. It is absolutely the philosophy of the Democratic Party, current Democratic Party, not the historic Democratic Party, run by loons, that is driving these cities into the ground. All you have to do is spend 2 minutes listening to the mayor of Chicago. You will really see how crazy these people are. They just don't understand. Their answer, by the way, including Mayor Adams and the mayor of Chicago and elsewhere, their answer to the border problem: give us more money so we can house more people in our public housing. They don't say shut down the border. They say give us more money. That is a sick solution, but that's where their brains are. Yep. And I don't want to tell you where that brain is.
Right. That's where the brain are, but the head that holds the brain is in a dark, remote place. Thank you, Joe. Have a good Monday.
God bless you all.
Thank you. It's 7:20.
Now
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
7:36 this Monday morning. Coming up at 8:05, Adam Gullett, Accuracy and Media, and 8:15, Trevor Manich on the Commanders game. I'm Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Julie, we're not the only media company out here, organization, that Superintendent Dr. Aaron Spence doesn't want to sit down and have an interview with. Nick Minock, WJLA. It's good company we're in, actually.
Yeah.
He finally tracked down the good superintendent out at a meeting in a school in Loudoun County, and listen to what happened.
Yeah, it's nice talking with you. Superintendent Spence, why did it take you so long to notify the public about fentanyl overdoses? Sir, why did it take you so long?
Nick, we're not going to do this tonight. We're not going to have
I'm
this
asking you a
conversation the way
question.
we're having this conversation. We've had a conversation.
When are we going to have the conversation?
Put the camera away. You and I go sit down and have coffee, and we'll talk about your approach to journalism, Nick. Okay?
Why did it take you so long to notify the parents about the fentanyl overdoses? You didn't know about the overdoses late September?
We have a constituent.
Yeah, I understand. Why did it take you so long?
She does not want to be on camera. Do you mind?
I'm asking you a question. Why do people?
Wait, I want to pause it there. At that point, Dr. Spence goes and basically uses a parent as a human shield. Yes. Stands directly in front of her. And she got, by the way, by the time he said that she doesn't want to be on camera, she had already moved off camera. Right. But I want to listen to the rest of it, but let's bring in Nick Minock here just to sort of give us the play-by-play at that point. You've been trying to get, Nick, first of all, thanks for joining us. Great work as always. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good morning.
You've been trying to get this interview with Dr. Spence for a while. Isn't this the guy who ran on transparency? You know, we're turning the page on the Ziegler administration. We're going to do things differently. We've got an open office. We'll talk about anything. Why didn't he want to talk to you?
Well, the answer to your question is yes, and yes. He interviewed with us back in June when he was the superintendent of Virginia City Beach Public Schools. He's going to come on board to Loudoun County. And he said he was going to communicate, be willing to answer questions, and be willing to acknowledge when you've made mistakes. So parents feel like he hasn't communicated, especially when it comes to these fentanyl overdose notifications. Weeks went by, parents didn't get notifications, and so he's been on the job for about 3 months now. And now there is a governor's executive order written and issued by Governor Youngkin because of a perceived mistake he made. And this is life and death. And so we've been asking for an interview. 7 News has been asking for an interview with Mr. Spence for 10 days before this exchange happened. So we don't necessarily go through a camera in someone's face if it's day 1 or 2 or 3. But if it's very clear they're not going to do an interview and answer questions on an important topic like this, we will show up. Yeah. And we will ask questions.
And reporters have won awards for this kind of dogged pursuit of a person, especially an elected official who is accountable to the taxpayer, who refuses to be held accountable. I want to listen a little bit more because he does stop and try to give you his memorized talking points. Listen.
To be on camera, do you mind?
To notify the public about fentanyl overdoses. Sir? Right. Sir, this is life and death.
This would be.
You said you were going to improve communication and transparency. Do you think you succeeded in that?
So, Nick, when you put the camera away, you and I can have a conversation about journalism, and then we can talk about this conversation.
Do you think you have improved transparency as the new superintendent?
Yes.
By not notifying the public about fentanyl overdoses? When?
As soon as I became aware of it, I put a team to work on it. I asked them to do a communication plan, an education plan, and a safety assessment. They got to work on that immediately, and before students were back in that building, we had a communication out to parents.
And when did you tell parents? Around the time that the governor
and you'll notice that he doesn't
order?
answer any of the other questions.
Right.
All right, so Nick, what he just said to you, does that fact check out, or is that sort of weasel words from a politician?
I have some serious questions about what he just said. It wasn't until the Loudoun County Sheriff got involved that we even knew these fentanyl overdoses were happening. And I submitted FOIAs to get some emails between the Loudoun Sheriff and the superintendent. And it appears the superintendent did not want this information to go out ever to the community about these fentanyl overdoses. And you see, and we actually have this in our web story on WJLA.com, where it shows the sheriff said, you know what, I saw the notification you sent out that he had encouraged the principal to send out to the community. It didn't even mention there were fentanyl overdoses at Parkview High School. It said, wow. It just read like a PSA, like fentanyl is very serious. And so if you're a parent and you're getting a PSA in your email, it may not be as urgent as, hey, there were 9 fentanyl overdoses at school since late September. There was no sense of urgency. And so then that's when the sheriff stepped in and he put out a notification to the public about what happened. He put a number on the number of overdoses, and then he linked to resources to help. And so it looks like the sheriff was the one who got this out to the public.
Just unbelievable. Nick, you also reported that you went to that school board meeting and tried to talk to Dr. Spence, but you said earlier, you know, he was meeting with parents, and you said he got an earful from parents who, not just about the fentanyl overdoses, but also gender inclusive bathrooms. Can you give us a sense of the sort of the atmosphere in that room and what some of the parents said?
Yeah, so that's been another hot topic across Virginia right now are these bathrooms that school systems have that allow non-binary, transgender, and gender fluid students to use the bathrooms, locker rooms, and showers of their choice despite their biological sex. And that's the case in Fairfax, Prince William, and Loudoun County schools. So he had this listening session last week. A topic that got brought up over and over and over again were from parents and how they don't like these locker rooms, they don't like these bathrooms. They cited specific cases of how their children are having to change in front of, as they call it, members of the opposite sex. Mm-hmm. And they wanted answers from the superintendent on that. Now, he did not say he was going to reverse it. He defended the policy. He said that the school board's going to review it. I think this Thursday, there's going to be a committee meeting at 5 o'clock where they're going to discuss this policy further. But parents understandably upset about what's happening, because this isn't like a policy where, you know, what if this happens? It is happening, and parents are bringing this up to him, and they're very concerned. This is at Woodgrove High School where this so-called listening session was happening with parents. This is the same high school about a week prior where students held a walkout. The freshman football team hosted this walkout to protest the bathrooms and ask the school board and the superintendent to restore girls only and boys only showers, locker rooms, and bathrooms.
Nick Minock, WJLA, thanks for doing great work. Continue to do it. We love talking with you about it. And I'd love to talk to you, Nick, as soon as you turn the cameras off. Sir, I don't think you understand how this works. Yeah, Larry, I'd love to give an interview. Just turn that radio microphone off. That's actually not an interview. Nick, keep up the great work.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
It's 7:45. It's like this whole listening tour thing. I'm going to go out and have a listening session with parents. That means you don't have to talk.
Right.
Yeah. What are your answers to all this? We're angry. I'm just here to listen. I'm just here to listen. Then I'm going to go away and forget everything happened. 7:45 WMAL traffic and weather. Let's talk about Abigail Spanberger. She's your congresswoman in Virginia 7. She's just put out a well-produced video announcement about her future plans. And I want you to know this is like 2.5 minutes long. We don't have time for it. But she has all these scare video shots of January 6th and claiming, you know, book bans in Loudoun County. Books are being banned from libraries and the shelves. And then she comes in with this.
Well, some politicians in Richmond focus on banning abortion in books. What they're not doing is helping people. I know how to bring people together and get real things done that improve lives.
That's a great way to bring people together. Lie about them, say that they're banning abortion and banning books and they're insurrectionists. And
After everything that we've seen the last couple of weeks with these rallies, these anti-Semitic rallies, and the violence we've seen, she brings up January 6th.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. Well, she used this to announce that she's running for governor. She wants to be governor of Virginia. By the way, let's not forget that the woman who says she's bringing everybody together, she wanted so desperately to be reelected as congresswoman that she never debated Yesli Vega. When there finally was a debate scheduled, I was one of the moderators along with a NPR radio host, and she backed out and called me a right-wing extremist who spews lies and hatred against Democrats. So that's Abigail Spanberger bringing people together, calling me cuddly little fuzzball Larry O'Connor.
Wildly disrespectful to Yesli Vega, too, who put up a great fight.
100%. And listen, she so desperately
and the
wanted
voters.
to be... She wanted to be congresswoman again. She wanted to defeat Yesli. She lied about Yesli Vega. She called Yesli Vega names. She calls me names. She divides her district so that she can win re-election. And now, 10 months in, she wants out. She wants it was just a stepping stone to be governor.
That's right.
Abigail Spanberger.
Yeah, and I love how
I
love how she's often described as, moderate. And she's always latching onto her former CIA official, right? As if, I'm not sure that gets you many points with Republicans, but she sort of cosplays this sort of moderate, Republican or Democrat, and that's just not true.
I welcome the debate between she and Winsome Sears. That's for sure.
Oh, so do I.
But let me just tell you something. What's really at play here? She joins Congresswoman Porter and Congresswoman Slotkin, announcing that they won't run for re-election. Also joining Jennifer Wexton in Virginia 10. Mm-hmm. These are all borderline swing districts. After this last election, if you look at Abigail Spanberger's district, Senate District 27 went 8% swing for the Republicans. House District 22, 10.7% swing for Republicans. House District 65, 6.1% swing for Republicans. Those are all located within her congressional district. She knows she can't win re-election. She knows, and those other congresswomen that I just mentioned know that their time is up. They're going to lose anyway. So they're announcing their retirement now so they can move on to their next big election. That's what's happening. Right. The Republican tide for 24 is already building right now, and Abigail Spanberger can see what time it is. So why not run for governor?
Right, because she's got nothing better to do.